Ladies and gentlemen, welcome for our first launch of the year 2014 from the Guyana Space Center. The two-night launch is the 72nd already for the heavy lift Ariane 5, but most of all, the 250th for our launch vehicle family since Arianespace creation in 1980. Our Ariane 5 ECA is set to deliver into a standard geostationary transfer orbit, ABS-2 for ABS and manufactured by SSL Loral, and Athena-Fidus for Telespazio on behalf of the French and Italian space agencies CNES and ASI and manufactured by Thales Alenia Space. Our launcher will be required a performance of 10.2 tons and will have a window of 2 hours and 5 minutes to lift off, opening precisely at 8:30 p.m. Universal Time. The mission will last approximately 32 minutes. I would like to thank ABS for entrusting Arianespace to deliver into orbit its most powerful satellite. Once on location at 75 degrees east, ABS-2 will provide various telecommunications services over a wide area covering Africa, Asia-Pacific, Europe, the Middle East, Russia, and the Community of Independent States. On behalf of Arianespace, I am happy to see that cutting-edge satellite operators' preference goes to innovative and high-quality launch services such as those Europe delivers. I also express my gratitude to Telespazio and its final customers, CNES and ASI, for placing their confidence in Arianespace once again. Athena-Fidus is a result of a French-Italian cooperation to provide both armed forces and homeland security units in France and in Italy with high-speed telecommunication services in complement to the current capacity offered by Syracuse 3 and Sikral systems. Arianespace is honored to be in charge of another mission to serve the European institutions and thus play its primary role, which is to give to Europe a guaranteed and independent access to space. But our 72nd Ariane 5 is now being readied for launch, so enjoy the show.
Greetings and welcome to the broadcast. Outside, Ariane is, yes, waiting patiently on the pad. Inside here in the Jupiter Mission Control Building, it'll be our pleasure to bring you all the live play-by-play of the mission. Starting with something new, normally you're looking down here only into the operational people in the fishbowl. Tonight we thought we'd do it this way. We'll come out here to be with the audience and the public. There always is an audience. You don't often get to see them, but tonight you can. So people in the hall, please smile because at home they're watching. Thanks for being with us. We're glad to see all of our VIPs and our customers and our invited guests. Welcome to you all. We hope you enjoy the show. On the status panels, the green status panels in the back there, you can see the go, no-go summary of everything it takes to launch and fly Ariane. Everything has to be green for us to launch, and that is the color today. That's the first quick look inside. We're going to go outside. We were going to go outside to our French commentators, Thierry Bouvard and Henri Casaban. They were outside. I don't know where they are now. Thierry, where are you, and what's the weather situation?
Well, Josh, the rain is rather strange at the moment. But we are out here on one of the Jupiter room terraces. As you can see behind us, the weather is not so good. Just rain for the time being, so everything's okay. So Henri and myself are under a small awning to keep out of the rain. So Henri and ourselves are going to tell you about this launch vehicle. You can see an Ariane 5 ECA, which is currently at the launch pad in the launch area with its EAPs. Yes, on either side we have EAPs. We're just going to interrupt here. Red. Weather is red. See, the rain has been rather naughty, so we have a red light for the weather at the very start of this video transmission. So we'll finish presenting this launch vehicle. So you saw the upper stage here, the cryotechnic, and then the fairing, of course, with the two passengers, which are safely kept out of the rain, ABS-2 and Athena-Fidus. So the red is a simple procedure. It's on the road, you have red lights and green lights, and we never run any risk. Absolutely. No risk is ever taken. Everything remains available and ready as soon as the green light returns for the weather. In fact, it's not rain so much the problem here, it's the wind, the ground winds, the altitude winds, and lightning. Of course, our launch vehicles do not like lightning at all. We do have a comfortable launch window of 2 hours and 5 minutes, so we can really come back and launch again. We have a new appointment that has been set with an H0 that has been postponed by 30 minutes, which is 2100 hours GMT, 2200 hours in Paris, and here in Guyana it'll be 6 p.m. So we'll just wait now for the new countdown and the liftoff of VA217.
All right, we had a hold in the countdown. As you saw, you can see up on the green status panels, the red is meteo. Meteo is, of course, the weather. We mentioned before that everything has to be green for us to fly, and with the red, we can't fly. So Mother Nature stopped us momentarily, but apparently we're going to pick up momentarily with a new launch time at, I believe, 1830. So while we are waiting for the DDO to call out the new launch time, we're going to introduce you to some of the key players who make the mission happen. We're going to move into the flight directorate in just a moment. You know, holds in the countdown happen all the time in the space business. I'm sure you've all seen it before. While we're waiting, we're going to look at some of the people, as I mentioned, who are responsible for the mission tonight. You're going to be looking at the Arianespace Flight Directorate, which is the top management. There they are. Stéphane Israel, the chairman and chief executive, of course, leading the team. With him, Louis Laurent, who is senior VP programs. And next to him is Edward Perez, who is the senior technical officer for Ariane and the living technical memory of all the Ariane flights. And rounding out the team, Patrick Loire, who heads up the Ariane Kourou facilities here. These are the top four. Now, if any problems like the weather problem that we just had comes up, they're the ones on the phone making the calls to determine what's going to happen. Briefed by the weather people, of course, and they made the call that we're going to go. All right, the Ariane 5 program began back in 1996, and its specialty is dual launches. Like tonight, we had a look at the launcher. Now for a peek inside the fairing at the dual payload.
Absolutely, Josh. We're now going to get acquainted with the two passengers for tonight. Two satellites, ABS-2 and Athena-Fidus. So let's go and have a look under the fairing. The first passenger that'll be placed in orbit is ABS-2. Yes, the upper satellite, ABS-2, 6,330 kilograms, is a telecommunications satellite for Africa, Asia-Pacific, among others. It's the first launch that ABS is conducting in its own name. It's a heavy telecom satellite, as they often are. The second passenger is Athena-Fidus. Yes, its mass is 3,080 kilograms, and it's dedicated to to Homeland Security, but also the French and Italian military.
Top, redémarrage temps des comptes, H0 moins 7 minutes.
Well, here we are, Josh. The countdown has now resumed in the Jupiter room, 7 minutes before liftoff.
30 minutes en temps universel, soit 18h30 local.
That was the DDO. The DDO, the operations manager, Damien Simon, announced that the final countdown would resume 7 minutes. In any case, whatever happens, we always need to use these 7 minutes for the final switch, the final handover from ground facilities to onboard. So there are two sequences, in fact, two synchronized sequences. One which is for fluids, which is in fact the final top-ups to repressurize the oxygen and hydrogen tanks of the EPC and ESC, and an electrical synchronized sequence where the final electrical operations are performed before power switches from ground to on board. Let's have a look at the last few days of the campaign.
Parts of Ariane 5 are built in Europe and come to French Guiana by sea. They go first to the launcher integration building for the standard assembly process. The main cryogenic stage is erected and the boosters are mated onto it. The upper stage and the vehicle equipment bay are put in place atop the main stage. Ariane 5, lacking the satellites, was transferred to the final assembly building on December 17th. Here, the satellites are joined to it. After their arrival in French Guiana, the two satellites are prepared in special buildings here at the space base. They're weighed and tested, and all their systems are checked, everything from electric cables to solar panels. When these tests have been carried out, the two satellites are filled with the fuel they'll need for their lives in space. They then go to the final assembly building to be mated atop the launcher. Athena-Fidus was put in place first in the lower position. She will be separated last. ABS-2 was integrated on the Silda, the carrying structure, then enclosed inside the fairing. This composite was then hoisted atop the launcher just above Athena-Fidus. The launch readiness review gave the green light for the launcher, now fixed to its launch table, to be rolled out on the rail track to its position on the launch pad. This occurs the day before launch. The first Ariane 5 to fly this year is now ready for its mission. All right, we're back in business. It's going to be all for me for the moment. I'm going back on the Sky booth. I will be back with you for more in English after liftoff. In the meantime, we'll go back to the French. Terry and Henri, you're going to be visiting the Launch Management Center. Terry, with you is somebody who is a veteran of many, many launches from that building. Get him to tell us what goes on up there.
Yeah, absolutely. Henri, you worked here in operations for 11 years, so you experienced quite a few launches, and there's a place that you know quite well, which is the number 3 launch center. There are 3 teams over there. Yeah, there are 3 teams. The first team, which I was a member of for these 11 years that I worked there, is the COEL team, the launch assembly team, and Christian Lardau's in charge. Then there's also the Ariane Production project manager, the CPAP, who tonight is Pierre-Yves Tissier. Yes, and the third team in charge of the launch vehicle quality in production is Eric Avedio. So there are 150 men and women at CDL3 who are working. They're very protected because they're only 3 kilometers away from the launch vehicle. They're in a reinforced building with filtered air, and they can work all the way to the final countdown to make sure, and that is what the synchronized sequence serves for. It's to make the launch vehicle more autonomous until they go to the final go, which should happen soon. You saw a horizontal metal structure, yellow structure. It's what is known as the cryotechnic arms. Could you tell us more about them? Yes, these cryotechnic arms make it possible to top up the tanks until H0 minus 6.30 minutes. There's liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen, hydrogen at minus 253 degrees, and as they warm up, part of the fuel evaporates, hence the top-ups. So, of course, it's made even easier by the fact that it's 30 degrees Celsius during the day outside here in Guyana, so you understand why these top-ups are necessary. And here we are. We're now going to discover these flaps. We have the liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen. What becomes to this, of this interface? Yes, they are going to be removed with the cryotechnic arms, which 5 seconds before H0, before ignition of the Vulcan engine occurs. So 7 test seconds before ignition? Yes, these final 7 seconds allow the onboard computers to perform all necessary controls to check ignition. Because you mean once they're on? Yes, because these EAPs, once ignited, cannot be stopped. Okay, we're going to listen to Damien Simon, the DDO, who's going to announce the final minute of the countdown.
À tous de DDO, attention pour H0 moins 1 minute. Top H0 moins 1 minute.
Voilà donc c'est parti.
Okay, so here we are, 1 minute. Ariane 5, flight VA217, ABS-2 and Athena-Fidus under the fairing. So silence now, and we're going to enjoy the show from the terrace. Enjoy it too. And we'll tell you what we experience in a few minutes. Thanks.
À tous de DDO, attention pour le décompte final. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, unité, top, allumage moteur vulcain. Allumage confirmé. Top, allumage UAP, décollage. Liftoff, c'est parti. Les paramètres à bord sont nominaux.
Attention, ça va être à nous. On l'a perdu, franchement, à
Le
cause du
lanceur
plafond
vient
qui
de
est
passer
très
en vol
bas.
supersonique.
Henri, mais
Les
on
paramètres à
l'entend
bord sont normaux.
passer.
Ah oui, là, le son est vraiment
Vous l'entendez
très
peut-être
important.
On entend très fortement
Yeah, we've lost the visual.
Ariane 5 CA.
We've lost her visually, but we can hear her. What an amazing thrust. These two powder, there's this amazing, and the whole sky is vibrating. Yeah, even although the weather was not so good, we can really see the flames out of these EAPs, and really a superb launch. And it's really climbing and going up very high in the sky, but we can still hear it very well, whizzing past. I don't know if you can hear it as we can. We were saying 540 tons of thrust each for the EAPs, 2 tons of powder consumed per second. That's 90% of the thrust which is given from the very beginning. And these EAPs are going to be working a little bit more, for a little bit more than 2 minutes. So 240 tons of powder. You can really hear them thundering across the sky. So it's going to be the end of the work soon for these two EAPs, which are going to be jettisoned from the main body of the rocket. Because everything that is dead weight, of course, is useless, and that should be happening within the next few seconds. There we are. There are some rockets, some distancing rockets there, 8 distancing rockets that make it possible to eject the 2 EAPs. So the launcher is still around 50.5 meters. Now the mass is of course much lower than it was at liftoff. We now only have 230 tons in flight. So what's the next step? The next step is going to be the crucial altitude of 100 kilometers when the fairing will be jettisoned. Yeah, because beyond these 100 kilometers, there's no friction, no vibration, and it's almost interstellar void here, so no risk for the satellites. So the fairing can therefore be ejected at around 170 kilometers. And the fairing is 2.4 tons, although it's beehive composite material. So it's now lost 2.4 tons, and the launch vehicle is still racing through space. This is the first time that you've witnessed a launch from a terrace. You gave a lot of goes, but how do you feel? It's actually the first time that I've seen it from the Jupiter 2 terrace, and I really must say that it's something deeply moving and exceptional moment. Okay, so we're actually now, if Manuel de Oliveira's teams can already do so, we're going to have another look at the liftoff. We had to wait a little, but it was well worth the wait. Look at it. There it is, a powerful liftoff. So, as regards the tracking now of the launch vehicle and its passengers, it's now performed by the so-called downstream stations. Yeah, for the acquisition of the telemeasure data, we have a network of ground stations all along the way. It's constituted of the Galileo station here at the CSG of Natal in Brazil, Ascension Island in the Atlantic, Libreville in Gabon, and Malindi in Kenya. So all of these stations acquire the telemeasure signal, but they then need to process the data, and part of it is done immediately. Yeah, we have telemeasures with more than 1,000 parameters, but part of this flow of data is decrypted real-time. It's what we call CVI, or immediate visual control, which tell us in real time about the health of the launch vehicle. And this data is then transmitted to the operational teams and the various entities concerned. So there's a team that we're going to go and visit at the CVI, and they're very good at reading and decoding the data and distributing it to the various people who are concerned and who make the decisions on the flight. What I now suggest is that we've been a little bit high on emotion here with this little slightly postponed flight. You know that we had more than 2 hours as a launch window. There was plenty of time to launch. So lots of emotion with this liftoff for Ariane 217. Just a short break now before we resume and try to catch our breath. And we'll have a look at what has happened in the field of space over the last few weeks. But we'll be right back.
In January, Arianespace offered its traditional New Year's greetings to the press and its European partners, using the occasion to provide a recap of 2013 and a look ahead at 2014. 2013 was a strong commercial year for the company, with 18 launch contracts signed for a total of €1,400 million. The goal for this year is to beat the record for most launches, 10, set by Arianespace in 2012. At its conference on space policy, the European Union reconfirmed commitment to 2 important programs: Europe's global navigation system, called Galileo, and its Earth observation and environmental system, Copernicus. Europe also confirmed these launches for Arianespace. A lot's happening here at the Guyana Space Center. Arianespace Flight 216 is set for March 7th, when an Ariane 5 ECA will lift Amazonas 4A and Astra 5B. And preparations continue for the Ariane 5, which will deliver the last of the ATV series, the ATV-5, called the Georges Lemaitre. That's in July. Soyuz is just as busy in this very European year. Flight 7 is scheduled for March 28th. Its passenger, Sentinel-1A for the European Space Agency, part of Europe's Copernicus environmental program. And Vega, the third and newest member of the Ariane family, will fly again at the end of April. The campaign for Vega's Flight 3 gets underway this month to orbit DZZ-HR. Back live here in English, Joshua Jampel again. Hope you liked the on-the-scene reporting by our two French commentators. All is proceeding normally on board Ariane. Propulsion and trajectory are perfect as we await confirmation now of the scheduled EPC cutoff. That is the extinction of the lower stage engine, and you'll hear the DDO, the Range Operations Manager, confirm that milestone as he has been conferring all the others. During the news, we were picked up by our first downrange tracking station over the border in Brazil, a place called Natal. Ariane is followed by a series of stations, as you know, keeping tabs on the health of her vital systems. All of her trajectory has been designed to be followed from the ground, and the station antennas downrange pick up the signal sent by the launcher and follow her progress. They're tracking over 1,500, that's 1500 parameters to measure motor ignitions and motor shutdowns, stage separations, etc. We analyze some of this data in what they call real time. Other data are examined after the flight to find out how the vehicle has performed. And there you see on the animation the separation of the lower stage. The DDO has just confirmed it, and you saw on the animation ignition of the upper stage. These three commands,
À l'image de l'étage supérieur cryotechnique, l'ESC.
and the DDO has just called out confirmation of the ignition of the upper stage. Three commands given by the onboard computer in a space of about 11 seconds. We're now into the third and final powered flight phase. It'll last about 16 minutes. In the second part of the mission, we turn to the satellites. Our first film on ABS-2.
SSL is a leading provider of high-power commercial satellites with more commercial capacity on orbit than any other manufacturer. The company drew on its heritage platform and numerous technology innovations to design and build ABS-2, an exceptional spacecraft tailored for ABS, one of the fastest-growing premium global satellite operators in the world. SSL designed a very advanced satellite for ABS, which has the capability to improve the human experience by providing a broad range of services to geographic regions containing 80% of the world's population. Customizing the 1300 satellite platform in order to maximize coverage and flexibility was an exciting challenge for the expert team of SSL and ABS engineers who were driven to find exacting solutions to meet the requirements for the satellite. ABS-2 benefits from SSL's most enhanced data handling architecture and the world's most cost-effective solutions for on-orbit switching and channel selection. The multi-mission satellite has C, Ku, and Ka band transponders to provide multiple services, including direct-to-home broadcasting, cable television distribution, VSAT data network services, and telecommunications services across 4 continents. With a designed mission life of 15 years, the satellite is one of the largest and most capable to be launched in the Eastern Hemisphere, and it will bring substantial new capacity to ABS. SSL and ABS worked closely throughout the design and manufacture of ABS-2. The teams established a strong collaborative partnership, working together to optimize ABS-2 and make it an exceptional satellite to meet the business goals of ABS. SSL would like to thank ABS, Arianespace, and the many employees at SSL who were passionate in their efforts to make ABS-2 a success.
The upper stage, which is burning now, actually has 2 roles. There is both a propulsive role and a ballistics role. We'll come back to the ballistics phase later once she has completed her first job, which is pushing Ariane 5 east. In our next film, you can learn more about our second passenger, Athena-Fidus, and its operator, the French Space Agency.
First of all, Athena is part of the national system and complements Syracuse. It's also one of the pillars of French-Italian cooperation in satellite telecommunications, the other being SICRAL-2, developed by the Italian Ministry of Defense with our help. This cooperation offers an optimal response to armed forces requirements in both nations. Each country plans its own payload. For Athena-Fidus, France is responsible for the satellite, which it keeps on station and configures in accordance with the imaging work plan established by France or Italy.
CNES and ASI oversee the space component, funded 51% by France and 49% by Italy.
The project encompasses development of a 3-ton, 5-kilowatt satellite and a ground control segment composed chiefly of 2 9.3-metre stations. This development has been tasked to an industry consortium made up of Thales and Telespazio.
The satellite, sent aloft by an Ariane 5 launcher, is then positioned and checked out from the facilities in Cannes and Fucino.
The Athena-Fidus satellite has 2 payloads, one French and one Italian. It's built around a very compact spacecraft bus that has already flown 3 times before. The payload consists of 23 Ka band and EHF repeaters. 7 steerable spot beams, 5 for France and 2 for Italy, will provide coverage for forces projected to remote theatres, while fixed spot beams will cover the French and Italian national territories.
Besides initiating the program and leading development of the space component, CNES's research and development teams also designed the innovative payload concept in-house and with the agency's industry partners.
This is the first all-Ka band satellite developed by French contractors. They were able to do this notably using new technologies developed upstream, dual-use technologies designed to serve both civil and/or military requirements. The advantage is that we obtain a lot of capacity at an affordable cost, lower in fact than for other frequency bands.
The Joint Directorate for Defense Infrastructure Networks and Information Systems, which already operates Syracuse 3, will operate Athena from the National Satellite Control Center in Maison Lafitte.
As well as meeting armed forces requirements, Athena will make the military infrastructure network more resilient. For example, it will enable certain radio or radar sensors used to assure air and maritime security during international summits or other major events to be connected to chiefs of staff and operations centres. It will also serve remote sites like semaphores.
With an in-orbit lifetime of 15 years, Athena-Fidus will meet the broadband needs of French and Italian armed forces and, where necessary, civil protection teams.
Athena-Fidus is typical of what a team like the Defence Team, which brings together Chiefs of Staff, the French Defence Procurement Agency and CNES, can achieve. This defence team is laying the groundwork to meet the armed forces' future requirements. In the field of imaging intelligence, we're readying the successors to Helios 2 and the space component of MUSIS. In electromagnetic intelligence, we're also preparing the successor to Ceres, as well as working on the successors to Syracuse and the satellites that will eventually replace the one we're launching today, Athena.
All continues to function normally on board. This version of the Ariane 5 is mainly for commercial launches. The DDO is just called out acquisition by our downrange tracking station in Libreville. Our third film on Athena focuses on Telespazio and Arianespace.
Athena-Fidus is an important program for Italy. It's an important program because it's an advance which is quite important in the field of satellite telecommunication, and secondly because it's a dual system, military and civilian, but it's also dual from the point of view of participation of France and Italy in the mission. So it's a mission which combines together a lot of new aspects. On board the satellite there will be a payload which will give rise to the new frontier in terms of telecommunication in Ka band. I think that this new satellite will allow Italy and will allow France, both for civilian and military application, to exploit a new application in the field of telecommunication, and we look forward to having the possibility to declare the success of this mission, which has been followed since many years from now. I would like to thank all the people who in Italy and in France have pushed forward this program. A new frontier in telecommunication will come with this new satellite, Athena-Fidus. Thank you very much.
In our modern world, the future is now. And this, of course, applies to the field of defense. Going forward, we will continue to benefit from cooperation with our French cousins, with whom many partnerships are already underway. Specifically, the Athena-Fidus satellite, which is being launched today, is part of a broader program that also includes the Sikral-2 satellite under Italian leadership. Athena-Fidus, with its dual capacity, is under French leadership. 51% for France, 49% for Italy. For the Sikral-2 program, it's the other way round. Italian majority and exclusively military objectives.
We mentioned this version of Ariane 5 is mainly for commercial launches. There's another version used for sending payloads into low Earth orbit, like the ATV cargo vehicle, which will launch later this year. Meanwhile, we're awaiting confirmation of extinction of the second stage engine, and you should...
I'm delighted to share this exceptional moment for the Athena-Fidus program. Athena-Fidus is a symbol in Europe because it is the first very concrete example of European cooperation in the field of government space telecommunications, which is highly topical in view of the conclusions of the European Council of last December. France and Italy had, since 2007, anticipated. Thales Arianespace, the leader in the Athena-Fidus program, has unique experience in both countries in the field of space telecommunications, both military and dual. This system constructed itself over the previous 30 years through the Syracuse and Citral programs. These investments allowed the development of know-how and unique resources in Europe that today constitute constitute an essential contribution to the positioning of the French-Italian industry on the global playing field, as evidenced by the recent success in Brazil. There is no doubt that these capacities will address the needs of the French defense system within the broader framework of the COMSAT-NG program. I would like to thank very warmly the French and Italian space agencies, DGA, and Secretary Fazia for their confidence and trust, and the teams of our partners Telespazio and Arianespace for the quality of their cooperation. Thales Alenia Space with Athena-Fidus and Sikral is extremely proud to be at the very heart of this bilateral cooperation.
The event of today has a special value in many respects. France and Italy have paved the way of a positive and fruitful cooperation in military SATCOM, not only by pooling respective resources, but developing common infrastructures. It is a unique example in Europe, and the first result of it is Athena-Fidus. The participation of space agencies, ASI and CNES, in the project contributes to outline a really innovative and unique satellite system, also by virtue of its dual nature. Later on, this year, the launch of Sikral 2 will complete the French-Italian system. And as Telespazio, we are proud to have given our contribution to its development. The challenge has been tackled and overcome at programmatic level by the close and effective cooperation framework put in place by French and Italian institutions, and at the industrial level, thanks to the competence and capabilities of Space Alliance of Finmeccanica and Thales. Telespazio is ready to support the utilization of Athena-Fidus system, starting from when we will receive the first signal, and we will then drive the satellite safely into its final orbit, and continuing across the system's entire life, to make it available to the benefit of its users, in particular of our institutions. My warmest thanks to French and Italian institutions, ASI, CNES, Italian and French Minister of Defense, DGA and Secretary Fazia. But let me thank our people in the Space Alliance, because it is also thanks to their competence, diligence, commitments, that all of this becomes possible. We then look forward to the next challenge, ready to take them on. Grazie a tutti.
We got cut off just before the intro to the film there. Sorry about that. We are awaiting confirmation of extinction of the second stage engine. You'll hear the DDO call out that. And then we will be into our fourth and final flight phase without power. It's coming up in just a few seconds. You'll see the nozzles shutting down on the animation there. Sometimes we have a delay of the telemetry coming in, but I spoke too soon. We didn't have one. There's the DDO confirming that the ship is now cruising without power. We're coasting, I should say. Ariane 5 has reached her maximum speed, roughly 9.3 kilometers per second. By the time she separates ABS-2 in about 2 minutes at 2722, she'll be moving at just over 9 kilometers per second. That's roughly the speed we need to inject a satellite, somewhere around 9 kilometers per second. Silda separation, she'll be down to 8.6 kilometers per second, and for separation of Athena at 32 minutes and a half, she'll be down to 8.3 kilometers per second. We are now in the final flight phase. No more power. So what's happening? The upper composite is now beginning a series of maneuvers to reach the position from where it can release the satellites and the Silda. The upper stage, I mentioned, has a dual role, propulsion and ballistic. With the propulsion job over, it's doing its second job now. Because we're coasting, it doesn't mean nothing's happening. The composite is being maneuvered and spun up in a series of a couple of dozen operations, ranging in time from a few seconds to several minutes. You can see that on the animation there. We have to separate the first satellite ABS in one direction and one altitude, then the Silda in a second direction and another altitude. Finally, the second passenger in yet a third direction and altitude. And Ariane's attitude and control system is using small thrusters to perform these maneuvers. You can possibly see them popping on and off there. On the outside of the launcher, there are 12 thrusters, or what's left of the launcher, I should say. They use gaseous hydrogen to provide the thrust. Right now, they're moving the composite in the directions required by the first satellite, ABS-2. When she is released, they'll start the second series of moves to orient and separate the Silda and do the same for Athena. We're not looking for power. What we do need is high precision. A precise injection of the spacecraft, of course, means a lot in terms of performance, but also impacts the lifetime of the satellite. If the spacecraft uses its own onboard propellant to get to its orbital slot, then it has less fuel left over. Well, there you are. The good news, successful delivery of our upper passenger ABS-2. There's happy faces from the ABS side there. At 966 kilometers altitude, coming right on time, separated over the east coast of Africa. Now that it's separated, its first operations will be solar array deployment coming today later on, reflector deployment also today and on the 7th and 8th days. Trim maneuvers will be taking place for the next 9 days, and in-orbit testing from the 10th to the 34th day. So you see the people in the room politely holding their applause until our second satellite has been separated. We have a minute. Maybe we can slip to the quiz question now. See if anybody at L'Oréal or at Thales can get this. This concerns the builders. SSL and TAS are flying together on this Ariane mission tonight. When was the last time the two builders shared an Ariane launcher? Can you give us the date or the flight number or the satellites? Ariane quiz question number 217. SSL and Thales are flying together on this mission. When was the last time they shared a launcher? We'll give you the answer in just a minute. For now, take a look at the CVI. This is the Immediate Visual Control Center. This is a facility south of the space base, high on a hill with excellent visibility. One of the reasons the Kourou site was chosen, you need nearby hills where radar and telemetry can be installed to follow the launcher during her trajectory. We've been talking about that and the downrange tracking stations who do that. The CVI, and you see the people working there, has all the means for receiving and processing and storing the telemetry data that's being transmitted by Ariane to her downrange tracking stations. The French Guiana site, by the way, also chosen for some other reasons along with nearby hills. Certain key advantages: a large opening on the ocean, making possible to fly both north and east and over an area that offers low risk to the nearby population. Low population density, I think there's some 200,000 in French Guiana. Most of the nation is forest. No hurricanes and earthquakes, as can strike in other parts of the world. We're waiting for Silda separation. If you just joined us, we have had successful separation of our first passenger ABS-2. Silda separation coming up in about 10 seconds, 15 seconds, roughly, I would say. We're nearly done with the ballistic phase, which will, of course, terminate with the release of our second satellite. That's in about 2 minutes. We're waiting for the DDO to confirm separation of the Silda. That's the black bell-shaped structure on the bottom, and you can see there it's going, pushed away from the mothership and confirmed by the DDO at the same time, revealing to the elements Athena-Fidus. All that's left of the 780 tons Ariane's mass at liftoff is the one satellite, the vehicle equipment bay, and some adapters. So the Silda has been separated over the Indian Ocean, as will be Athena-Fidus in about another minute and a half. Some of the history of Athena. Since 1985, the French military has been using satellites from the Syracuse program, launched by Ariane, for its communications. Military payloads originally carried by France Telecom's old TC2 series. Some of you may remember those. They were launched by Ariane in the 80s and 90s. They're currently on a new system called Syracuse 3, used by the Army. Syracuse 3 is jam-proof, secure system, and the French Army uses it to communicate with its overseas forces. However, as things evolved, the Army felt it needed some different functions, such as the ability to transmit greater amounts of data. And this is where Athena comes in. It'll provide these additional services, higher rates of data transmission, around 3 gigabits, personal message there apparently, 3 gigabits per second. CNES and ASI, the Italian Space Agency, developed the space segment. Once operational, the system will be used by the French and Italian armies, but also the Belgian army, as well as the civil protection services in France and in Italy. Athena is the 104th institutional satellite launched by Arianespace and the 50th satellite launched by Ariane for defense purposes. We're waiting now for separation of our final passenger, due at 32:31. That's coming up again. One of the moments of high concentration for everybody here tonight, representing months, sometimes years of work for some of the people here. The mood in Jupiter, I would say, focused, although most of the people have gone through this before.
Séparation Athena-Fidus et succès du lancement 217.
Well, there you have it. You heard the applause. The final good news, Ariane 5 has successfully separated her second passenger. See what that looks like up there. Athena-Fidus, and right on target, 1,982 kilometers above. So some happy faces. Thumbs up. We love Ariane. Lots of champagne and cigars coming. We are sure people very happy, especially after the delay we had. We're going to go to a replay. We'll be back with the answer to the quiz question. Well, we'll go back. Sometimes we have other replays from other sites across the base. Here comes another one. Closer in. Did you get the answer to the quiz question? When was the last time SSL and Thales shared an Ariane? The answer, not so long ago, July 2012, Flight 207. The passengers, EchoStar 17. Final replay. And a replay even closer in. EchoStar 17 SSL, U.S. communication satellite, and MSG-3 European weather satellite built by Thales Alenia. That was the last time the two builders flew together. If you got the answer, give yourselves a round of applause. So for the tense moments, just minutes ago, you see the change here in Jupiter. Smiles all around, all across the Space Center, at all the points and posts where people are following the launcher and the satellite. Work is just beginning, or soon will be, at the different ground stations for Athena and at other sites around the world where the satellite's first maneuvers are being monitored. And this is echoed around the world, of course, at all the outposts and offices where people involved in both satellites are following the happy outcome of events. We're waiting now for the traditional post-launch speeches. We'll be hearing first from Stéphane Israël, Chairman and CEO of Arianespace. Then we'll be hearing from Tom Choi, Chairman of ABS. Then David Bernstein from SS Loral, I believe. Caroline Laurent of the DGA, that's the French Army Procurement, I should say, agency. Bruno Moreau of Thales, we'll be hearing from Telespazio. And finally, Bernard Chamoul, who's in the picture there, from the CNES. These gentlemen and ladies present today will shortly be making their ways out from the fishbowl to join us in Jupiter. The podium and its microphones are set up for them now. Mr. Israel, no doubt, who is in the fishbowl, extending and receiving some congratulations. Shaking hands all around, maybe exchanging cigars with colleagues. That's a tradition. So we had a bit of a wait early on in the broadcast, but of course suspenseful, but all's well that ends well. You can see the happy faces witnessing that. One stage that we're not going to see is called passivation. Passivation might be worth a mention, though we won't see it. That empties whatever fuel remains in the tanks. Ariane is still over our heads, actually. The passivation phase lasts roughly an hour. What happens is the valves are kept open in order to clean the pressurized tanks of the upper stage. We have to avoid any hazard for people or equipment and master the upper stage is end of life, of course. So in this way, what happens is we make sure it quietly burns up during its atmospheric re-entry without blowing up. Passivation occurs at over 3,000 and at over 4,000 kilometers altitude. First, the liquid oxygen tank is opened and drained. Then the same happens to the liquid hydrogen tank. We're going to be hearing from Tom Choi. We heard him this morning. Interesting note, ABS founder. He said this morning that this launch was transformative for ABS, that was his word, taking the company from a fleet of satellites that it had bought from other firms and lifting it to the status of a global operator. A defining moment is what he said, something he's been waiting for ever since he started the company in 2006. Stefan Israel is approaching the podium, and the next voice you hear will be the chairman and chief executive of Arianespace.
Okay, so Monsieur le Préfet, Monsieur l'Ambassadeur, Mesdames et Messieurs les officiers généraux, Mesdames et Messieurs, distinguished customers and guests, ladies and gentlemen. So, Ariane 5 ECA has successfully injected ABS-2 and Athena-Fidus into their targeted geostationary transfer orbits. With this first successful launch, 2014 has now really begun for Arianespace and its customers. Indeed, this 250th launch performed by Arianespace is a perfect start for a year which we hope will set a record from an operational standpoint. Our order book indeed allows Arianespace anticipate up to 12 launches in 2014 here from the Guyana Space Center. Yes, it is a challenge, but it is a challenge we are excited to meet with all our partners. My satisfaction is all the greater tonight because tonight's mission is the perfect symbol of Arianespace's dual raison d'être. Arianespace provides Europe with guaranteed and independent access to space, while at the same time delivering high-quality launch services to commercial satellite operators worldwide. I would like to deeply thank ABS for ABS-2. I am just now looking where is Mr. Tom Choi. Ah, he's here. Okay. So you were in. For ABS-2 and Telespazio on behalf of ASI and CNES for French and Italian MODs for Athena-Fidus, who both entrusted Arianespace with orbiting critical components of their space segments. Occupying the upper position, ABS-2 is the first satellite delivered from the ground up to ABS. It is also the first satellite for which ABS had to procure a launch vehicle. And ABS came to us, which is no surprise, as more than 80% of satellite telecommunications operators have chosen Arianespace for their first launch. This fact demonstrates that Arianespace is a world reference in the field of space transportation services. I would thus like to thank Mr. Tom Choi, ABS Chief Executive Officer. Tom, we know you have a choice. Thank you for choosing Arianespace. And personally, I know that you were very impatient to be launched, and I fully understand that. And you know, we have to wait a little bit. We have to overcome some issues at the end of the year, but at the end of the day, we made it, and we perfectly made it today. So thank you very much for having entrusted Arianespace. I truly hope our cooperation is destined to continue in the near future as ABS continues to grow and expand under Tom's efficient leadership. Let me also congratulate Space System Loral, the manufacturer of ABS-2, represented here tonight by Mr. David Bernstein. Our partnership, David, now counts 43 missions since our first one together in October 1983. I am glad to see that there are currently 11 more SSL satellites to be launched by Arianespace. Athena-Fidus is the 50th satellite launched by Arianespace for European security. Today's launch gives you a taste of what 2014 will be like, a year of fulfillment and opportunity for European institutions. Our catalogue, indeed, is dominated by such launches this year. We are excited about our missions for the European Commissions and its two flagship programs, Galileo and Copernicus, as well as for the European Space Agency, including the last automated transfer vehicle named Georges Lemaitre and IXV, a re-entry demonstrator on Vega. This year, our three launchers will deliver for national and European institutions, illustrating our primary mission, providing guaranteed access to space for Europe. Arianespace is particularly grateful to Telespazio, who selected our launch services 4 years ago to the benefit of CNES and ASI. Thanks to Lorenzo Donghia, Telespazio Italy Chief Commercial Officer, and to Jean-Marc Gardin, Telespazio France Chief Executive Officer, for sharing this moment with us. I, for sure, want also to thank warmly ASI, CNES, and the Italian and French MODs for having entrusted Arianespace with such a key mission. This year will be a very special year regarding Arianespace and Italy. After Athena-Fidus, we will be launching Cicral later on this year, and in parallel, we should launch 2 Vega. In this context, the long-standing friendship between Arianespace and Thales Alenia Space, represented tonight by Bertrand Moreau, deserves special notice. Athena-Fidus is a 130th satellite built by TAS since June 1981. Last but not least, let me thank warmly the launch teams, both in Europe and in French Guyana, who made tonight's success possible after a long campaign with a long campaign which required reactivity, team spirit, and full transparency to overcome some unexpected events. This success is the 58th in a row for Ariane 5, manufactured by our prime contractor Airbus, and launched by Arianespace. The quality, the reliability, and the availability which result from your hard work are considerable assets most valued by our customers, especially in the area of intense competition. So I now leave the floor to our customers, first ABS-2 and then Athena-Fidus, also to satellite manufacturers and then to CNES CSG. So, and for sure, we will have also some speeches from the different MODs, Italian and French. Thank you very much for your attention. And the floor is now to ABS-2. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Wow, that was fantastic. Congratulations to Arianespace. You made our future possible. You repaid our faith in your capabilities. We're deeply indebted to you, your employees, CNES, and the ESA. ABS-2 is a symbol of our future. It's a portal to our long-term sustainability. ABS-2 is a validation of all of our sweat and tears. Additionally, ABS-2 is also a symbol of hope and future success of our customers. The successful launch of ABS-2 is certainly a dream come true for all of us, many of us working with us today. Let us cheer the success of Arianespace, L'Oréal, and the ABS team that made this day possible. Thank you and congratulations.
Good evening. I want to thank the Arianespace team for another successful launch of an SSL spacecraft. This is a good start to 2014. We're proud to be the first launch this year, and we're looking forward to several more launches working together. So thank you, Stefan and the Ariane team. I want to congratulate Tom Choi and the ABS team on the launch of the first satellite that was built specifically for them. We're proud to have been the people who got to do that, and we've worked with you together for a number of years, and it's been a very good relationship. We look forward to future working with you. And then I want to thank the SSL teams, both here in Kourou and back home in Palo Alto, for all their hard work over the last number of years, getting this spacecraft ready and getting it successfully launched today. And I can't forget the mission team that's right now working to get the satellite prepared to go into operation to support ABS and their customer community. And then finally, there's one more note. It's not as happy a note. Many of you are probably aware that this past weekend, Bob McFarland passed away. Bob was a key member of the SSL team and a critical part of the space industry, and all of you are, I'm sure, are familiar with him. Bob was a friend, a teacher, and mentor and advisor to many of us. And at SSL, we dedicate this mission to his memory. Thank you.
Being part of a launch team is so emotional that you forget any formalism. So I'm really happy, and I thank the work that Arianespace has done. Things that they make appear so simple are not simple at all. So who has followed the organization and the technicality of a launch know that there are a lot of work, so they are very professional, and I thank you. I thank the organization of the Arianespace, and obviously this is the start of the operation of a new satellite that is a frontier for a big cooperation between two nations. Okay, thank you.
Monsieur le Préfet, Monsieur l'Ambassadeur, Monsieur le Président de Région, Messieurs les officiers généraux,
Mr. Ambassador, officers, ladies and gentlemen, it's always very moving to witness a launch, especially a successful launch, and I would like to thank Arianespace. I know that every launch is everything but an eventless path. Quite the contrary. I know that this is just the end of amazing work put into all of this by Arianespace, the CSG, and the manufacturers of Ariane 5. I would also like to thank CNES and ASI, who conducted the production of the satellite on behalf of the French and Italian Ministries of Defense. And of course, I would like to thank the industry, Thales, Arianespace and Telespazio. Thank you so much for building this satellite. Now, of course, it needs to be positioned, qualified, and kept operational for the next 15 years. This satellite, to us in the French Defense Ministry, is going to provide us with comfort. We're going to have a video conferencing instead of just the telephone. We're going to have maps. We have maps on our smartphones every day. It all sounds very simple and natural, but you never have that in a theater of operations. You don't have fiber optics, you don't have 4G mobile systems. You need to bring along your own infrastructure and networks. And you won't necessarily have our smartphone maps all over the world, but almost. We'll have that on tablets, onboard vehicles, or on aircraft in Paris and elsewhere. And that is only made possible with broadband, the broadband capacity provided by Athena-Fidus. Syracuse is more specialized. It does not provide this type of broadband, and Athena is going to achieve this. And this is really going to be essential for us, as the satellites that were launched last year brought optical capacities to Helios, which was a more military satellite. So it's a great step forward for military communications, and we're not actually necessarily going to go into the cloud, but something a little bit like that, and to have images in the theater of operation from major databases, and we need to have the big pipes to pass for all of this data to pass through. But I think the really important thing today is this sign of this fantastic cooperation between France and Italy, initiated in 2010, and which is not coming to an end today. We shared a lot in the construction of the satellite. SICRAL-2, its sister satellite, will be launched at the end of the year. Both satellites are produced in cooperation. But the cooperation does not end with the launch, far from it. We are going to be initiating a deep operational cooperation. We're going to share the operations of this satellite over the next 15 years. We're going to have total mutual trust, of course, because Athena will be operated from Maison Lafitte, from Tiresi, while SICRAL will be operated by the Italian MOD from Reno di Valle. And of course, we will need to work in a climate of trust to plan uplinks and connections. So it's a true operational cooperation that's starting between us for at least the next 15 years, at least the lifespan of this satellite. And I think that is probably the most important news for today. It's the start of this cooperation. And 2014, with these two launches, is going to be a key year for military telecommunication satellites and for French-Italian cooperation in this field. Many thanks again to all individuals involved in today's success, and I would say long live Athena-Fidus and the French-Italian cooperation.
Mr. Prefect, Mr. Ambassador, Mr. President of the region, General Laurent, Mr. Israel, Italian authorities in Rome, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very proud, a little bit emotioned and honored to represent today here in Kourou the Italian Ministry of Defense, the General Secretariat of Defense, and the Directorate of Information Technology, Telematics, and Advanced Technology where I work. The joint, combined, and dual-use space endeavor pursued by our National Space Agency and our Ministry of Defense with the Defense Procurement Direction is on the way to its final destination. A few years after, our countries, Italy and France, agreed to cooperate on two space communication programs, Athena-Fidus and SICRAL-2. Today, we have just witnessed the achievement of the first target, and hopefully we will have the second one before the end of the year. Today, the Athena-Fidus implementation project has been led to conclusion, but more importantly, today the deployment phase of the project marks its start, and soon the Athena-Fidus project will enter the operational phase. So we have not done, we are doing something to last. In fact, it's a remarkable achievement that this European cooperative space communication project demonstrates again a big success. It will be taken, I'm sure, as an example to follow. Acknowledgement be given to Thales Arianespace and to Telespazio for performing their best to deliver the satellite perfectly. Of course, I wish to say thanks to our national space agencies, CNES and ASI, for leading the procurement and implementation phases. I also wish to say thanks to all men and women working in Segredifesa, Teledife, and in the joint staff who have contributed so much to this success. And last but not least, thanks to Arianespace for taking care of the launch with the European launch vehicle Ariane 5, and thanks for the kind hospitality here. I would conclude with Ad Maiora, and good luck to France and Italy.
Monsieur le Préfet, Monsieur l'Ambassadeur, Monsieur le Président de Région, Madame et Messieurs les officiers généraux, chers amis d'Italie, Mesdames, Messieurs.
My dear friends from Italy, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to thank Arianespace for this beautiful launch, which again has proven the reliability of the launcher. I would like to thank the French and Italian space agencies, the DGA, the French and Italian ministries of defense for their trust. And I'd like to thank our partner, Telespazio. I'm expressing myself on behalf of Telespazio, by the way. I'd like to thank everybody for the quality of their cooperation. Thanks a lot to the Thales Arianespace teams in France, Italy, Belgium, Spain. Thank you to all those who've contributed because of their commitment, professionalism. Thank you to all those who've contributed to the success of this program. Athena-Fidus will have high-speed telecommunication, and it provides services to the armed and land forces and to the security units of France and Italy, and we are very proud of participating to this great success. TAS is ready to meet new challenges. We will spend as much energy to ensure the success of present systems, Syracuse and SICRAL, as we will for the development of new systems in the future. The launching of this year, later on this year, SICRAL 2 will give us another opportunity of celebrating the French-Italian cooperation. I'm sure that it will go on in the next generation of telecom services. Athena-Fidus satellite has been acquired by the Dongara station. That's the first good news of the evening as far as we are concerned. Now our next challenge is the success of its positioning. So I wish good luck to all the teams who are now in control of the spacecraft. I'd like to thank all the teams in France and here for this broadcasting. And thank you in Italian to our Italian friends. And I celebrate the cooperation of us all. Let's go on, and good luck for the future and for our future programs.
Je vous rassure, je crois que je suis l'avant-dernier.
Don't worry too much. I think this is the before last speech. Just one more to go after me. So this year is starting very well. It was a little bit scary at the start, but ultimately we did launch. And I hope, Stéphane, that this will be a series of, the first of a series of perhaps even 12 launches this year. So we are returning to a 72nd success of Ariane 5, which further strengthens the reputation for reliability of this European launcher operated from Guyana. And I wanted to congratulate the launch vehicle teams, the industry, Airbus, all of the others who work with Airbus, Arianespace, who operated the launch vehicle under the direction of the European Space Agency in CNES. We had a perfectly mastered launch conditions. This is also the end of a campaign that was initiated early December when the satellites reached the CSG, ABS-2 and then Athena-Fidus, and the various teams who worked together in our facilities. I'm sure that the teams enjoyed the quality of service provided by CSG. I would like to thank our clients, ABS-2 and Telespazio, who trusted Arianespace with this, and also this base here at the CSG in Guyana. CNES is very happy to witness this cooperation between France and Italy in equal proportions. A successful cooperation where synergies and optimized organizations between DGA, the Italian MOD, Italian Space Agency, and CNES were developed for a highly innovative satellite, 270 million euros, to serve homeland security and the armed forces deployed in various fields of operation, Italian or French military. This telecommunication satellite will operate in Ka bands, military and civilian, with broadband capacities for operations in the field. Will also give a low-cost data exchange capacity with troops on the ground. This cooperation is a new example of mastering costs and sticking to schedules. Arianespace and Telespazio, who led the work on this, and congratulations also to the leaders of this, the way it was conducted between DGA, the Italian Space Agency, CNES, and the Space Center at Toulouse, which worked on the satellite too. The CSG was, again, chosen and made available to clients in Arianespace, thanks to its highly professional and responsive teams responsive in view of the various events that can occur during a campaign, and therefore CSG's resources provide the best infrastructures and services available from a launch base. So congratulations to all teams, both of institutional and also the industrial teams of Telespazio, for instance, which is one of the members of the Union of Employers of the space base here, the spaceport. And many thanks too to our partners, the armed forces in Guyana and Gendarmerie, who protect us with a fantastic sense of service and maximum availability of our facilities by guaranteeing and ensuring their security. So for the CNES and partners, a great many appointments are going to be following, and the men of the French Space Agency and will, of course, work very hard to prepare for the future, with the future of Ariane, with broadband satellite communications and electrical propulsion on next-generation satellites. In Guyana, CNES has already started studying the creation of the next Ariane 6 launch site. We need to be prepared when the final decisions are taken by the European authorities. Guyana will be a major partner to address all of these challenges with a base that is both strategic and competitive. I would like to thank the locally elected representatives who work with us, and we work with Guyana and for Guyana. I would like to thank also the operators and hope that their space systems work best at the service of their clients and citizens more broadly. Thank you for your attention.
Juste quelques mots pour conclure. D'abord, dans mon propos introductif de
Just a few words of conclusion. I forgot to welcome two presidents. The president of the Guyana region, who's here with other elected representatives, and Mr. Yannick Descata, a former chairman of CNES. So I'm doing that now.
So we will have two other launches in March. So on March the 7th, we should launch Astra and Hispasat for and Amazonas, Astra for SES and Hispasat for Amazonas Amazonas for Hispasat, sorry. And both these satellites are now in CSG, so we are preparing this launch very actively. And in March, we target to launch for with Soyuz the first Sentinel for Copernicus program of the European Commission. So March will be a very busy year, hopefully, and with all the teams, we are highly motivated to prepare these two coming launches. Have a very good evening. Thank you very much to all of you, and now enjoy the evening. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
So we're going to go to some final shots of a final launch replay, and then we will say goodbye to you on this very emotional evening with some ups and downs and some starts and stops. But all's well that ends well. All's well that ends well, and that's really life in the space business. We'll say goodbye from Kourou, where the big news is that, of course, Ariane 5 has once again delivered 2 new telecom satellites beginning life up over our heads. 2 new telecom sats. ABS-2 and Athena-Fidus. They are the 480th and 481st payload launched by Arianespace since her beginnings in 1980, and also a milestone because this is the 250th launch since Arianespace was founded back in 1980. So congratulations to everybody involved. It also marks another milestone, which is the 58th straight success for Ariane 5. So she keeps rolling, as Stefan Israel said. Our next launch in just a month. March 7th, that'll be another double launch, another Ariane 5 international launch for 2 telecoms, Amazonas for Spain, Hispasat, and for the SES Luxembourg group, it'll be Astra 5B. So until then, on behalf of everybody here in the Space Center, and especially for our commentators in French, Thierry Bouvard and Henri Casaban, this is Joshua Jampel saying thank you for being with us. We hope you enjoyed it. We sure did. And we look forward to being with you next time. Good night, everybody.